All right, guys, welcome back to the Let's Talk Ball pod. This is episode 23. It is February 17th. We're recording after the latest round of Premier League matches. Before we hop into our analysis of that, Spain, how you doing?
Doing well. Had a good weekend of watching soccer. Arsenal pulled out a win. FPL is looking strong this weekend. So yeah, everything's going well. How are you?
I am good as well. I think I've gotten to the point where I stopped getting upset about United results and just kind of living with the reality of what it is. Never feels good to lose to Spurs, but especially this Spurs team. But in general, I didn't let it ruin my weekend. I played a little pickleball, just tried to enjoy myself, relax a little bit, and then I had today off of work, so can't complain too much.
Nice. Always love a good Monday of no work.
Yeah, exactly. Give me time to recover from the game, which I will jump into now. United played Spurs over the weekend. It was battle at the bottom of the table, 14th and 15th place teams. And this one ended up 1-0 in favor of Spurs. And I got to say, I think this feedback has been pretty consistent across the board from Spurs fans, United fans, neutral fans alike. Just one of the worst games I think I've watched in a long, long time. Just as far as like general quality, entertainment factor, pretty much everything across the board was pretty piss poor. And I assume you agree with that take.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. The group chat of my Arsenal friends, we were joking about how bad both teams were. I know I messaged you and talked about how bad the game was. It was just, like, agreed, one of the worst games of soccer I've seen in a long time from clubs that you would expect a really good, exciting game of high quality. So it just kind of shows the state of both of the teams, both the clubs at the moment. But it was a really, really tough watch.
Yeah, it was not our worst performance of the year, unfortunately to say, but it was one of our worst performances. They've all been pretty poor recently, but I guess it's as far as like what I'm trying to say is it was not a good performance, and I think I was shocked at the fact that like we were still had a chance to like get a point from the match if we were just a little bit more clinical. And I think not to pile on to Spurs, but like obviously like United didn't perform well, but like I kept thinking like this Spurs team honestly isn't very good at the fact that we can perform like this and still be in the match. I think, like you said, it says a lot about both clubs and where they're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think just looking at the game, Spurs obviously controlled possession, I think, in the first half, and they were able to get a good chance early. They got the ball, just kind of like a ball that was bounced around the box, and then falls to Bergvall, who puts a good shot on net. Onana spills it to his left, and James Maddison just reacts faster than the rest of the United players. Puts it in, and Spurs are up 1-0 early. I think that goal was really big for them because other than that, there weren't too many other clear-cut chances. I actually think United probably had bigger chances than Spurs for the rest of the match, even though they didn't see as much of the ball. I guess from a Spurs perspective, I'll start with them. Good for James Maddison to get on the score sheet, no matter how you do it. There was a lot of talk in the press about Roy Keane calling him out, saying, where's James Maddison? He's supposed to be the guy. He's not stepping up for the team. Misquoting him exactly. I'm sure he said it much more harshly than that. But it was funny seeing James Maddison after the match. The reporters were trying to get him to kind of take a dig at Roy Keane and like call that out specifically, but Maddison handled it pretty classy. But he did make a point to say, it's hard to ignore the outside noise as some of these players when you hear the media talking about you and on social media people talking about you. And he said it's even harder to ignore when it's a high profile name, and kind of gave the reporter a little bit of a wink when he said that. So I think he all but said basically like, screw off Roy Keane. I got my goal. Talk now, essentially.
Did you see the clip of what Roy Keane said? Mm-hmm.
I didn't see the clip. I saw quotes, and I remember thinking, "Oh, that's a little bit harsh," but can't even remember exactly what he said.
Yeah, I saw it. It was one of those clips they take of like the group while they're eating breakfast or having like a tea or something.
Oh,
with,
the
like,
overlap?
Ian Wright and Keane,
Gary Neville,
and who's
Carragher.
the woman played for
Julie.
England?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, but they were all. So it was, I think, Gary Neville, Wrighty, Keane, and Julie. And I mean, I agree with what Roy Keane was saying. He didn't say that bad. He's like, "Where's Madison been? He hasn't stepped up. He got a lot of hype around him being like a good player playing for England. So what has he
Hmm.
done? Like he's basically got anonymous. Granted, he has been injured a good bit this season, but I actually really agreed with what Working had to say,
Yeah.
and he was just saying like, oh, everyone just says like you can't basically criticize players if they're not playing up to their standard that I hold this player in or that he should be held to.
Hmm.
And the rest of the crew kind of were like, we're not going to criticize him, basically. But he was just saying we should criticize this player. I'm criticizing him because I don't think he's up to the standard and as good as he should be. I
Yeah.
think
I
it
mean,
kind of got blown out of proportion.
yeah. No, I actually do agree with that being the sentiment. Also, to correct ourselves, her name is Jill. Jill
Thank
Scott.
you. Joe Scott, you're right.
Um, but yeah, I agree with that sentiment. As far as like a player of his caliber, like an England national that's played multiple games for the national team and stuff like that, he was brought in to kind of be the main man or one of the main men at Tottenham. Uh, I agree. Like, I think if he's at a club like a United or even like a Chelsea or like someone that's like getting a little bit more media attention, I think he is definitely catching a lot more flack than he has over the last few months with his team performing as badly. Like, God forbid that was like, I mean, it is Bruno Fernandes in a team like United. Like, he's getting all sorts of flack. Marcus Rashford has a lot of eyes on him. I don't think he did himself any favors, but I think he gets a lot of attention when United doesn't perform well. So I think, I think it's right to, at least I like seeing it thrown at another player. That's not someone at United, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Going back to the game, though, from a United perspective, just overall pretty ugly. I think I've spoken on this multiple times. Although we don't give up too many open play chances, I don't love the five at the back setup that we have. I think we look a lot better when we set up in like a 4-4-2, but I've only seen that in like two games really under Amarim. Other than that, we're playing this kind of 5-3-2 where it just becomes really easy for the other team to keep the ball and we just do a lot more defending. And like I said, we don't give up a lot of chances, but I just don't think it gives us as much of a much control of the game that I'd like because I feel like we're a little more on the back foot, more just focusing on defending than keeping the ball. And then when we do have the ball, we've just looked really wasteful recently. Um, we look pretty devoid of options when it comes to like deep build up. The way teams like Arsenal and even Spurs, I'll give them credit, like can take the ball from keeper to defense to midfield to the front. United just don't really have a pathway of doing that as consistently. Sometimes when Xerxes on it, I think he was more on it in the Spurs game, but I think sometimes when Xerxes on it, like he can be that. But when Hoyland is our striker, he's just really struggling to keep the ball and really make things stick there. And I think you can see that. And then even when we do get into the final third, we don't get it there often enough, and routines aren't executed well enough to where there's just like a wry decision being made, whether it's a pass that's like a little bit too far behind someone or a little bit too far in front, or someone's making a run that's not being found, or like an example where Bruno Fernandes finds Garnacho and Garnacho disguise it, where he had like that one big chance, and like it just seems like things aren't clicking from an attacking perspective. And I think until we can get those goals to start coming in and get a little bit more confidence in the team, I think it's just going to be a lot more of the same, a lot more just ugly football and kind of these games where we're trying to scrap back into games because we just can't seem to score,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both teams look pretty poor in terms of like their execution and quality. Towards like later in the second half, at one point, I just saw like two teams kind of throwing the ball back at each other, like in basketball, running up and down the court and just throwing a brick after brick after brick. It seemed like there
Straight up.
wasn't like teams were both tired. We can talk about United's depth right now because it's definitely a talking point from the game based off their bench. But like there was no pressure in the midfield. These teams were running back and forth, getting to the final third, and then putting like a really weak cross. You said having just like one bad pass lead to another turnover. But yeah, it was just like throwing back and forth of just miss after miss.
Yeah, overall lack of quality. Like I think I watched Bruno Fernandes give the ball away too many times. Hoyland gave the ball away too many times. Like really just everyone across the board. Like I think like you were saying, especially the last 10 minutes of the match, there was a point where United got the ball from Tottenham and failed to connect the ball, like find a teammate. I think I literally counted 6 or 7 times in a row. Like they would get the ball and whoever they passed to, they did not find a United player for one reason or another, which was just horrendous.
Yeah, it's just like
Um,
unacceptable in the Premier League.
Exactly. And I do think fatigue played a role, and so I'll let that go into our depth conversation because coming into the game, we didn't have midfield options. That was one thing that probably didn't help us was we had to start Uncle Casemiro in there, and he seems physically and mentally checked out at this point. And I texted, I think it was Connor Bass before the game. I was like, hopefully we get to see one of the exciting academy midfielders come in because I know Casemiro is going to get a yellow card. Like that's just automatic cash. And 39 minutes of the game, not even the second half, he goes in for his typical just goes to ground really early with no chance of winning the ball, takes a player out, and like gets a yellow.
Yep.
So that was inevitable. That was like the first square on my bingo card.
Yeah, Casemiro is in full Ankh mode.
Yeah, full Ankh mode. But again, he was our only option in midfield because Kabi Manu went down with an injury that's going to keep him sidelined for a few weeks. Christian Eriksen, I think, was ill. Toby Collier, our academy grad that's been putting in some good minutes in the midfield, was also injured. And I think Ugarte, again, also picked up an injury. And I think this was all in training this week. And then the biggest injury of all, which was probably why our attack was even more stale than usual, was Amad Diallo suffered an ankle injury and has to undergo season-ending surgery. So United are really devoid of options because we also, in the attack, gave away Anthony on loan. Not that he was lighting the Premier League on fire, but that's a whole nother story because he is lighting La Liga on fire. And then Marcus Rashford we sent out on loan to Aston Villa. And those were two attackers. Mason Mount is still injured, so he can't contribute to our attack. Like, we're just don't really have any options. Our bench was, the average age of our bench was like 19 and a half years old, I think. And that's with a 30-year-old Victor Lindelof there as well. So I think our only senior player on our bench was Victor Lindelof. The rest was Sekou Kone, who was, I believe, 17 or 18 years old. Cheeto Obi Martin, who's 17 years old. Harry Amos, who's like 19. We had one more 20-year-old, and the other rest of the kids were 18 and 19 years old. And not a single one of them had played a minute of senior football. So it's not even like we really had reliable options off the bench. I personally would have loved to see the academy kids get a run, but I feel like Amram's stance has been and will continue to be, he doesn't really want to throw the academy kids into this dysfunctional environment right now and really expose them, which I understand. You don't want to kill kids' confidence and put them into a situation where they're not going to be set up to succeed. But at the same time, like, I can't really go out there. If everyone is still injured come next week, I don't know if I can survive another 45 to 90 minutes of seeing Casemiro running out there with no hope. Like, I might as well throw a kid out there because it's going to be the same effect, but at least we can, like, have them get up to speed a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. I will say Obi Martin came on, and you can't really take anything away from it because he was on for like 2 minutes, or if that. But he just looked super young. I know he's he is super young. He's 17, but there's a difference in the way he looks versus like a Lewis Skelly or Nwaneri, who are about the same age. Granted, we've seen both like Lewis Skelly and Nwaneri have played a few games, and we've seen throughout the season. But I just could like tell there was a distinct difference in I don't know what it was, but just like the kids that we've been playing versus Obi Martin, who was his debut for United. Which is very, very fair. But I guess like part of my point is I can kind of see Amarin's point of not wanting to throw these kids in an environment where they're not going to succeed because he just looks super young out there.
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest differentiator. I follow a couple of people on Twitter that are really into scouting young players, and that's how I've kind of been tipped off to Nwaneri, Lewis Skelly, and some of these players that are like notable. And the one thing that I think a lot of them stress is the biggest differentiator. Like, a lot of these kids are like the same level of technical quality when coming out of the academy. The biggest differentiator is whether or not they can cope with the physical demands of senior football, which you see Lewis Skelly is definitely built for that physically in one areas as well. Kabi Manu, a big reason he succeeded so immediately was he came in, he was physically able to compete with some of the big bodies in the Premier League, and some of these kids just their bodies haven't caught up to that. And so I think a lot of the kids in the academy are the same way for United. Like you said, you can just look at Cheeto Obi Martin and see, like, he's tall. Like, I think he was taller or as tall as Højlund in some of the United players, but he hasn't quite filled out his body yet. So it's just going to take time Give him 6 months, and you'll see like the crazy growth spurt that some of these players can go through. Like even looking at Kabi Manu, if you saw what he looked like when he made his debut for United versus what he looks like now in just a year, it's like almost like a completely different person.
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, but that's what happens when you're like 18 years old and developing.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's see. Hopefully, we get to see a little bit more debuts from the United Academy players as we go on, but I don't think throwing them on in an away ground against Tottenham, who presses high, really puts a lot of pressure on you, I don't think that was like the right timing for them to make their debuts. I did want to touch on real quickly, I guess I touched on the injuries already, but I just think moving forward, outlook for the rest of the season for United, what I'm looking for as a United fan from Ruben Amorim and our team for the rest of the season is just to see any sort of improvement. I'm not looking for any sort of grand, like a cup, FA Cup or Europa League would be awesome, sure. But I think all I want to see is from game to game, are we going from like absolutely atrocious to just terrible to bad to okay? Like that's just what I want to see for the rest of the season. And I want to see some individuals getting better as well. I'd love to see players like Patrick Dorgu, who we just got in, like to see him making a little bit more of an influence on matches. Xerxes is one player that I think actually has improved a lot since that first time he got hooked in the first half against Newcastle. I think it was back in December. I think he's someone that's improving. I would love to see Højlund get out of this rough patch that he's on, gain some confidence, and get better. Garnacho has improved. He's not obviously still not polished. Like he's got his things where he misses like the sitter that he had against Spurs, but I think he's improved. I think really I just want to see overall improvement as a team, and then for some of the younger players, see them continue to grow as players, and I'll be happy. Like I don't even care if we finish like what I guess I care if we finish 18th, 19th, or 20th, but I don't care if we finish 17th. And as long as we don't get relegated, I just want to see improvement across the board, and that's all we need.
Yeah, I think you just want some hope going into next season because I haven't really seen any improvement at all since Amarin's got there. Granted, he's been dealt a really hard hand. I'm not really going to judge him too much on that, but I think he's still been trying to figure out the team, the system, and like we've talked about in past podcasts, play players in different positions to figure out what's working, what he has to work with. I think he's kind of had enough time to deal with that. So agree that should be the expectation going forward, just to see some type of improvement, because we have definitely not seen any improvement. Maybe in a few players, you said Xerxes, but overall from what I've seen, there's probably any improvement since Amarin. So as a United fan, that's what you want, is just some hope to take it the next season.
Yeah, and like you said, I expect more from Amarin, but I also will say like I do feel bad for Ruben Amorim, because he said coming into the season or coming into the job, he didn't want to leave. He made it clear that he did not want to leave Sporting mid-season. He wanted to wait till the end of the season, and United essentially said, like, look, you got to come now or never, essentially. So he ended up coming knowing it was kind of a losing situation, because he knew he wanted to play his system, even though the players might not be suited to that system, and it would be difficult. It was also the patch of the season with the most fixture buildup, so the least amount of time to train a new system for him. And then the club is in a financial situation to where he wasn't even going to be able to bring in players to improve the system. Dorgu is a player that is for the system, but I don't think anyone was expecting him to come in and make like a super immediate impact, other than just being capable, but not like a ceiling raiser, maybe just like a floor raiser for the team, if that makes sense. Just because he is a profile fit. And then on top of that, without getting any reinforcements, we gave away a couple players that could be useful. Anthony is at least another body in the attack, and then Marcus Rashford was objectively at least like our third best player this season. Like Ahmad had 12 goal involvements, Bruno had 11, and I think Marcus Rashford had 9. Marcus Rashford had 9 goal involvements before even being frozen out of the team, starting in like late November or December. So who knows what he would have had he kept playing. And then on top of not bringing in reinforcements, he then loses his best player of the season so far in Ahmad. I really feel for him, and now his midfield super thin. For him, I don't really know what you do other than just keep trying to train the principles and hope the pieces fall together. But I don't envy him at all, to be honest.
Me neither. And from the shots I've seen of him on the bench during games, he doesn't know either. He just looks so devoid of ideas, and
yeah,
it's just kind of, as an outsider, it's pretty funny. As an Arsenal fan, I get why you feel bad for him, but it's just kind of funny. I do feel bad for him, But seeing those shots of him on the sideline during the games were pretty good because he's just like, what the hell is going on
he's
here,
a pretty
guys?
yeah, he's a pretty expressive guy. Like I remember the one shot that NBC was holding on to was him just like head down, like looking like this on the bench, not even watching the game. To be fair, it was during a stoppage when the ball wasn't in play that he was doing that. But still, he's definitely very expressive and does not hide his emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's all in United. We don't need to spend too much time talking about that. We know it's kind of a shit show, for lack of a better term. Let's talk about Arsenal.
Yeah, so we played Leicester on Saturday in the early time slot. We almost drew Leicester, which would have been really, really disappointing and probably the season killer for any hopes that we had to hang on to in terms of the Premier League title. But thankfully, Mikel Merino came on and saved us, and looks like he's going to be our new number 9 for the rest of the season, or at least that's what I'm hoping, or until we get some players back. Because we only had 3 healthy forwards, so like United, we'd lost some people during the break in training. Havertz being the biggest one. He tore his hamstring, had to get surgeries out for the rest of the season. And with Gabriel Jesus being out, tearing his ACL, we're down to no strikers. And then Saka's out as well.
Martinelli as well, right?
Yeah, Martinelli. Yeah, he's our other one. So down to only Sterling, Nwaneri, and Trossard up top. So we knew they were going to start. And in the first half, we just lacked a lot of creativity and quality. I think Leicester had the better chances than us, if I'm being honest. Nothing like too crazy, but some good shots inside the box. But just really poor the first half, and Sterling was really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
The dude was just running offside, just got the ball, would do nothing. I really think at one point, I think that he hit it was also like 4 times. I swear he was doing it on purpose just so he didn't have to get the ball, because he's like so low on confidence, and I think he kind of knows his body can't do what his mind wants him to do. So I think he's just partially running offside just so he doesn't have to get the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sad. That's sad. I missed a lot of this game, so I didn't really get a feel for like how the game went or like who the best performers were. It was cool to see Mikel Merino get those 2 goals because I saw some like that felt like such a dark horse shout, but like I saw people making jokes like about the Fellaini to Merino comparisons. I forget what the exact quote is, but it's like the idea never died, essentially.
Yeah,
cool to see Arsenal get the late winners.
Yeah, I'll finish off up real quick on the game, I guess. We can kind of dive into different talking points. In the second half, we looked a lot better. Really thanks to just Nwaneri. He just kind of stepped up and started doing his thing. He started being a lot more direct, driving at defenders, getting shots off, and he was definitely our best player throughout the game. He was the bright spot. He had one where he took it on, cut inside, and hit shot with his left foot from outside the box, and didn't have really any backlift on this shot just because they just been closed down from behind. Barely grazed the crossbar, went over. He had one from a similar angle, but instead of cutting inside to go left, he stayed on the outside, kind of did a shimmy to the left and stayed outside to hit it with his weaker right foot and banged that off the side post. So it was really nice to see him be able to get shots off, running at full speed with his weaker foot with so much power. I was like shocked by that. He's just looking like he's going to be a really big superstar. And then we subbed in Merino for Sterling, and then he had one almost chance from a nice pass from Timber, and then Nwaneri stepped up with a really nice cross. Just, again, some really class from Nwaneri showing his skill, putting it a good cross for Merino, who rose up, finished. Just really calm, taken header, which is something that's not always easy from a headed chance, but Merino took it. You know, it's very similar to the Spain goal, kind of. He kind of jumps up almost like above the ball, but it kind of hangs in the air and then just like finishes it really calmly. Yep. Yeah. And then 5 minutes after that goal, we countered attack. Calafiori had a nice counter, played in Trossard, played a nice ball across the box for Merino to finish, which was probably an even better finish because the ball was coming in fast. It kind of skipped up on him, and he just took it first time, hit it into the ground, controlled first time finish from what looks like a new number 9.
Nice. So would you say, like, when did you feel like Arsenal turned it on? Like, just second half in general, you would say?
Yeah, around, I think it was in like the 60th minute or so, maybe sometime in the 50-something. is when Nwaneri had his first shot and just looked like probably Arteta just said, yeah, we just need to attack them more and be quicker with it. And we probably stopped going to Sterling's side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so really around like the 55th minute, and then Nwaneri had two chances within like 10, 15 minutes, and then Marino came on, and we had a few more chances.
I got you. So sounds like Moneri's the truth, and he's going to be hopefully the savior that you guys need during this patch while you're waiting for people to get healthy again.
Yeah, especially without Saka, him playing on the right is really important. I just don't think Sterling is a viable option at all, so I do hope we go with Marino going forward. And then Trossard just got to play a lot of minutes for us because we don't have any depth. But it also was really nice being able to bring on Calafiori because he can drive forward. He helped with our second goal. Odegaard gave an outlet pass to him. He drove 20, 30 yards with the ball and played a nice ball in Trossard. So I'm still liking what I'm seeing from Calafiori, even though he's not starting every game, which I think is fine given his injury history and he's new to the club this year. But I liked seeing that a lot as well.
Nice. Nice. Where would you like to see Moneri play? I guess in like a fully healthy squad. Do you think he's starter level, or do you think he's someone that like still should be coming off the bench come next season? Let's say.
I think he's starter level. I think he is the truth. I think he's almost better than Trossard already. Just the way he can take the ball, carry it, and he can pick it up from deep, and he just really controls the ball, never loses it, and will find an out pass. There were one or two times where he was dribbling through the midfield, like beating 3, 4 players in a really tight area. And it's just like both him and Lewis Skelly, I never felt like they're going to lose the ball, which is awesome to see. So he's got that going for him. He's super direct. He's lethal off. He can go both feet, and then really lethal cutting in on his left. So I want him. I think he is the starter next year.
Yeah. So do you think he because obviously Saka's your starting right wing. Do you think you probably put him in at maybe like a right center mid position? Like maybe like basically have him replace what Odegaard was doing with like him kind of trying to play on that right hand side with Saka, and then maybe move Odegaard elsewhere. Do you think Odegaard holds bench? Like, what do you think happens there?
I think we could maybe move Saka to left wing and play Nwaneri at right wing.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Gotcha.
I
That would be
think
really
that,
interesting.
yeah, I don't know. Because I just think Saka is so dynamic and he will be able to do what he does from both sides of the field. And he does cut in a lot on his left. But I would like to see them at our right and left wing if we're going to start them. Otherwise, I don't know if he would be a regular starter in the midfield just because we like to have more defensive qualities in there. We already have Odegaard. So I'd have a hard time seeing Odegaard starting with Nwaneri and Rice in like our best lineup for a really big game. I think it's going to be Marino and Rice or Partey and Rice still, along with Odegaard. I don't see Odegaard getting dropped. But yeah, I think I would like to see kind of what it looks like with Saka on the left wing and Nwaneri on the right wing.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, that's just what I started thinking about as I saw the reactions to the game. I need to go watch a match comp of Nwaneri to see like what exactly he was doing and like I guess what zones he was performing best in and stuff like that. Because he seems like he's someone that's going to like basically force his way into being a starter. And so it'll be really interesting to see how the team dynamics change for that aspect, whether he gets sacrificed maybe in his best position to accommodate for other players, or if other players get sacrificed. Really interesting discourse there from an Arsenal perspective.
Yeah, I think you will be impressed with what you see. And I know he played a lot of attacking mid in the academy level, and what I've seen with him in midfield, the way he can dribble past players and get off a really nice pass. I just have a hard time seeing him and Odegaard starting, like I said, in our big games. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how Arteta chooses to manage that. Did you have anything else from this game? Any other standout performances or anything like that?
I thought Rice was really good in the game, especially late in the game. Just his energy, winning the ball back. There were a couple of big times where he covered lots of ground, won the ball. I think for our first goal, he made like a nice tackle inside their box to keep the ball in our possession. I've always been a big Rice fan ever since he joined the club, and I'm still, even though he's not providing with as much goals, his energy and his athletic ability to win the ball back is really huge, and I think it goes under the radar sometimes. So I just want to give a quick shout out to him.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I was actually going to say basically the same exact thing. I feel like he's just, I think I said it on a last week's podcast as well, but I think he's just the type of player that, like, he's so good and positions himself so well, reads the game so well, that I think a lot of what he does can go underappreciated and fly under the radar. And he might not be like putting in the final ball or anything like that, but I think he's really, really important of why Arsenal can look so stable, even with so many attackers out and that kind of deal. Like, he's just someone that's going to put in a good performance every game and be solid for you guys.
I think he gives us at least 5 extra like possessions, or like either keeps the ball and stops the transition, or like breaks up the ball in their attacking third. So at least 5 times a game he does that, and sometimes more.
Yeah, definitely just a soccer maestro. I was even watching videos of him doing some him showing off his technical ability, doing the juggles and stuff like that. I was like, he's just a really talented player. Let's see. Is that it on Arsenal for you?
Yep, I think I'm good on everything.
All right. One other game I wanted to highlight was Manchester City versus Newcastle. That one ended up 4-0 in favor of City. I figured City might be able to get away with a win here, but I did not expect it to be a 4-0 rout in the way that it did. Did you get a chance to watch that game?
Yeah, I was watching the first half on Goal Rush, so I had that game on mostly, so I saw basically all the goals. And then at halftime, I had to leave to go to a birthday brunch for Caleb. But
Nice.
yeah, I was really surprised by that. I thought Newcastle were going to win. I picked that. And in fantasy, I was really high on Isak this week, and was also really high on Gordon, and almost kept Gordon as opposed to going to a Bournemouth mid who were playing Southampton. That just goes to say, like, show how high I was on Newcastle. I thought City's defense was going to be so poor. They were going to force a lot of high turnovers, and Isak and Gordon were going to kill them. But that did not happen. Newcastle were not on it, and Marmoush was clinical.
Yeah, Marmoush was super clinical. I think that's probably the biggest storyline from this game, was just the way Marmoush came out and basically propelled City forward to start that match. He scored a 14-minute hat trick. He's already got more Premier League hat tricks than both Marcus Rashford and Bukayo Saka, I'm pretty sure. Obviously play different positions, but still. Marmoush came in, like, you could tell just from his first appearance. I think his first appearance was against... Was it Chelsea? Was the first time he played? I think it was him and Kusanov made their debuts against Chelsea in that 3-1 win that they had. And even if Marmoush didn't score, he still looked super threatening. And I think everyone was kind of like, this guy's going to be a problem. And he showed exactly why against City, or against Newcastle. His first 2 goals were both well taken, and the third one as well. But the third one was a little bit more of a gimme, like he was just alone by himself at the top of the 6. But the fact that he was just even there to score that many times and take advantage of those chances in such a short amount of time shows, like, he's just feels like the type of person that's got good instincts. Like, great player, super talented, technically gifted, but seems like he's just kind of a dog and sniffs out chances for fun. And so I think he's going to be a really, really important player for City. Like, could be more impactful than even Julian Alvarez was, but like a similar type of just play second striker, just another source of goals for the team.
He looks like a more direct Riyad Mahrez to me.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
Definitely.
got
Like he's super skillful, can take players on, but also can run in behind. Like he's that
yep,
transitional threat.
yep, similar build, but like you say, he will run in behind more.
Hmm.
Just going on him in the first goal, I really laughed. I was laughing and kind of loved seeing Trippier get done so badly after Newcastle, and Trippier really talking a lot of shit to Arsenal during that game. It was the EFL Cup game that we lost, but he was really being like a hothead and really thinking he was hot shit during that game.
Yeah.
So to see him get beat just by a long ball over the top and kind of tripping and falling and leading to Marmoush's goal was hilarious. That was
Yeah.
an aside.
I'm sure that was sweet to see. One thing that I think I was surprised about was that you touched on already was the lack of goals from Newcastle, the lack of like attacking threat really. And I do wonder, I need to either watch him back more or maybe watch this game back, but I wonder how much of an impact Nico Gonzalez had. Because I think this was not his Manchester City debut, but one of the first matches he played, definitely one of the biggest matches he's played so far for Man City. He only played 45 minutes in his debut, and it was like in a cup match versus like a pretty terrible team. So this was like kind of his real first main test, and from what I heard, he did pretty well. I think he was helping kind of win duels in the middle of the field, which is what Man City's midfield has needed so desperately. I think he just is a source of legs. I think he's only 23, so he's young. He's got the energy and can kind of provide a little bit more of what they've been missing without Rodri. And apparently he was really composed on the ball, making good decisions on the ball as well. So I think that's something to watch out for as far as like being a main difference maker. Because my question out of this match is this a one-off for City, or are they kind of back to being a serious team again? Is it like, did those transfers really make that much of a difference, or is this just a little bit of noise and they're going to kind of regress back more towards what we've been seeing for them? I really don't know.
Yeah, I need to go back and also pay more attention to how the midfield played. Because in our last pod, that's why I picked Newcastle, shouted out because I thought Newcastle's midfield was so much stronger and just going to overpower them. But obviously that did not happen. So yeah, maybe it is thanks to Nico Gonzalez. I'd be surprised if City are like fully back and I go on a crazy run for the rest of the year. I think they're going to be a little hot and cold depending on who they play and what team shows up.
Yeah,
But if Nico Gonzalez is good, really good, that'll go a long way into making them more stable and
yeah,
be more consistent.
yeah. I'm looking at his stats. He didn't have an absurd amount of duels, but he won 100% of them. He won 4 out of his 4 duels in the midfield, and then I'm trying to look at his passing stats. So he did have the most passes in the game by a lot, actually.
Oh,
He had 103 passes and completed 100 of them, which is a 97% rate. And at the next highest amount of passes attempted in the game was 79 by Gundogan. So he definitely took on a bunch of the build-up responsibility. It seemed like he took a lot of the build-up as far as like, or top of a lot of responsibility as far as like taking the ball, distributing it, moving it around, setting the pace of the game. So definitely one to watch out for, because I've heard when he was coming in, I heard mixed reviews as far as whether he's going to actually be able to make an impact or not. But maybe this is another stroke of like City genius finding the right player to kind of step in and really turn themselves from like a good player to an elite player. So he's going to be one that I'm excited to watch moving forward.
yeah, and Pep does well with that type of player. I mean, he's always had Sergio Busquets to Rodri too. Maybe Nico Gonzalez next.
And he's a La Masia grad. He's from Barcelona,
Really?
so he's got the DNA.
Wow. Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, do you have any? I guess we'll touch on FPL at the end, but do you have any players from City that you're looking at from an FPL perspective yet, or you think you're just going to wait it out and see how they're going to move forward?
Definitely not this week because they're playing Liverpool. So still just kind of biding my time. I mean, if anyone is Marmoush, just
Yep.
because he's exciting. He's just scored a hat trick, so everyone's gonna be looking at him now. But too early. There's no reason to get him this weekend going against Liverpool. But he's on my radar. And then if Haaland starts picking up form, it'll be a pain to get him back in the team. But maybe around wild card time, if City really start turning it on, we can start looking at that. But for now, not making any moves, but definitely just monitoring Marmoush more than anyone. I still don't believe in City's defense. Although Guardiola always pops up with a goal pretty consistently or an assist, so he's never really that bad of a pick as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in a similar spot. Definitely not going to move to anyone's city this week, but I'm definitely monitoring. Marmoush is the one that I'm looking at as well because he's just one of the cheaper options from their team, and looks like he's got a high ceiling on him. Like if he can go out and score a
Hmm.
hat trick, I think he's also going to be involved in assists as well. Even though I don't think he picked one up this week. And then I am actively trying to free up money to eventually move to Holland. I'm not sure who I'm going to sacrifice to get him in because you're essentially going to have to sacrifice either one of Mo Salah or probably Cole Palmer.
Hmm.
Chelsea are kind of stinking recently. Cole Palmer's going through a cold streak, so it's likely going to be Cole Palmer, but still is going to be, can you make up that money with the rest of your team? It's
Hmm.
going to be something to watch out for. I've heard Foden's name thrown around. I'm not really interested in Phil Foden just because of my personal bias, and then just in general, I think if you're going to
So
go for a city
inconsistent.
mid, yeah, if you're going to go for a city mid, might as well just go for Marmoush
Yeah.
at that price point. And then Gvardiol again is a great shout. He's just so involved in what they do attacking wise that even if they're not keeping the cleans, like he's almost just as likely to get a goal or an assist as like any other City player.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's all I had on City versus Newcastle. We can move over to rest of the EPL unless you had anything else from that match.
No, I just also meant to say that Trippier actually got done on the second goal as well.
Did he?
So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, he was struggling out there. I
Poor
think
guy. I mean,
Marmoush
there's a
was
reason he hasn't been
Marmoush
playing.
was dropping him off at the retirement home. So
Yeah, that's funny. I'm interested to see what they do with him. I mean, hopefully they don't hold on. I thought they were going to sell him this past summer or even this January. So if I was Newcastle, I would definitely move on come the summer, unless you want him to just be like a locker room guy for some reason. But
yeah,
yeah, he's
I mean
definitely
he's
past his best playing days.
definitely he can't be on cheap wages. So I would be really surprised if they held on to him after this season.
Mhm. Let's see. Looking at the rest of the Premier League, any other results stick out to you that you want to talk about?
Actually, just one more thing on that topic. I'm really surprised
Okay.
Newcastle because I just know Newcastle have been in kind of a financial struggle recently. Is why
Hmm.
they got rid of Elliot Anderson. So it seemed, if I can remember correctly, that it really just came to me that Trippier wanted to leave and they wanted to keep him. So like in hindsight, it's kind of surprised. I'm not sure that is how it went, but I'm surprised they kept him and then didn't play him for so long. So for like basically the entire season, even though he is a pretty expensive player given his wages. So that's something I'm just gonna want to look into some more. Just surprised because I just
Yeah.
know they're in a really tough financial situation. It would have made a lot of sense to get rid of him if you're not going to play him.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if it was, I don't know how they're run. I think maybe, I wonder how much the whole, this is going into another rabbit hole, but I wonder how much the whole Dan Ashworth situation affected them. That was their director of football that United poached from them last season.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of an ongoing saga for like, it probably started in like October even of last season and then kind of kept going. He had to go on gardening leave, and I don't know if they've ever brought in someone to officially replace him, at least still closer to the summer. And I wonder if like them not having like the correct structure at the top kind of trickled down and affected their decision making going into the season. And they just kind of are like, let's get rid of some stuff, try and balance the books, but like maybe not make any big purchases until we have someone at the top calling the shots. And then just said, hey, we don't have too much depth at our fullback position. Like maybe just hold on to Trippier. Maybe that's how that decision ended up
Yeah.
coming about. Um, that's my running theory, but it definitely is. I don't know. They're a very, very interesting club as far as like what decisions that they'll make moving forward because they seemed like they had to sell some of their most talented United or academy grads like Elliot Anderson, like you mentioned, also Yakuba Minta, who I think picked up a brace for Brighton against Chelsea, which
Mm-hmm.
we'll get to in a second. And then you got players like Isak, who seems to be the hottest thing on the market. So there's who's to say that they hold on to him, especially if they aren't able to get Champions League or even European football going into next season. Bruno Guimaraes is another player that seems like he's got one foot in, one foot out. As far as like a lot of teams would love to have him, he seems as committed as he can be to the club. But I just wonder, like, if another team comes knocking and they're not playing European football again, like I would love to see what happens to Newcastle to see if they kind of drop back into that mid-table category, if they can continue to build on some of the momentum that they've had over the last few seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they will be interesting to watch, and because of like the PSR rules, they can't just go and buy anyone, which I'm sure was probably the plan with the investment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely interesting to see how PSR is starting to affect a lot of people. Like even teams like United, I think in the past might have been able to buy their way out of some of the trouble that they have, but now they're like to the point to where they're just doing anything they can to get players off the books, fix the wages, fix the profit losses and whatnot, and try and be a lot smarter about how they're constructing their teams. Right, let's move on to some of the other results. I just touched on this one, so we can start with that. Brighton versus Chelsea 3-0. Did you see any of that match?
This one, I can't remember if I watched it or just saw the highlights. Yeah, Brighton really kind of dominated Chelsea, from
Yeah,
what I remember. And Minta was really.
yeah,
Oh, this was the Friday game. Yes, I did watch this game.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
Brighton was
Chelsea
just way
seemed to
better
be.
than Chelsea.
Yeah, straight up. Like that was kind of the story from the game. I feel like a lot of the time, sometimes it's like, oh, one thing went one way and kind of shifted the momentum and stuff like that. But I just felt like, at least from what I saw, Chelsea had a whole lot of the ball and did a whole lot of nothing, and Brighton were like obviously really clinical with their chances, but also created better chances than Chelsea. They had five big chances compared to Chelsea's one, with 30% possession, which is kind of crazy to think about. Freaking Matoma had that insane touch, like one of the goals of the season. Like I was jaw dropped when I saw that. That was nuts.
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
The man
like I
running
mean that.
full speed, looking over his head as the ball drops with the defender Chalaba on his shoulder, and then to beat him with the next touch. Oh, that was a ridiculous goal.
Nasty. And I've already seen some links saying Chelsea are willing to pay 75 million something or another for him after he torched them, because Chelsea seemed, I don't know how they bought so many wingers, but they seem devoid of wingers right now. Jadon Sancho's catching a crazy amount of flack on the internet, especially after his freedom comment to Marcus Rashford. Did you see that whole thing? Did we touch on that last week?
No, we did not. But I saw something on this, but please enlighten me a little more on it, either now or later.
So yeah, I'll touch on it now, because I mean, there's not too much from this game other than Chelsea basically got whooped and are kind of sliding and trying to find their confidence again. But Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford made his debut for Aston Villa and made like a debut post showing him like playing in the game or whatever. And Jadon Sancho had one of the top comments, and he just commented freedom with like, I think the hand emojis or something like that under Rashford's thing, and basically saying you're free of United, free of that toxic environment, yada yada yada. And United fans did not take lightly to that at all. A lot of people were flaming him, being like, we basically like, we treated you right as a player, you gave us nothing, you went to Chelsea, you're doing nothing. Like basically like, don't be so outspoken against the club that like tried to do right by you, essentially. And Marcus Rashford's team even put out a statement basically being like, yo, we don't endorse whatever Jadon Sancho said on Marcus's photo. Like
Wow.
Marcus doesn't want any issues with the club. Like Marcus is trying to be very amicable, essentially. And so that really rubbed United fans the wrong way. And now I'm seeing all sorts of memes like posting Jadon Sancho stats from his recent games and from the season, basically quoting like freedom, being like, basically, you're still a bum, like wash your mouth, essentially. So that's been kind of funny to see from a United perspective. I don't love when people pile on to athletes when they're in poor form, but he's not doing himself any favors. Like he didn't really need to say that.
Yeah. So what's your take on it all? I mean, just that he's.
I mean, I can empathize with him, because I made a video myself this week talking about how it seems like all these players are able to do well when they leave the toxic environment that is Manchester United. And I understand that a lot of people like just feel all sorts of pressure, all sorts of like just, yeah, it's just the pressure and the toxicity around the club. And so I think Jadon feels like he was kind of isolated by the manager, and I think he probably feels like he can empathize with Marcus Rashford, feeling like, because I think Amram kind of tried to make a point with Marcus Rashford with leaving him out of the squad the way he did, and some of the comments he's made about his training and whatnot, because those are some of the same exact comments that Eric Ten Hag leveled at Jadon Sancho way back when. And so I understand where he's coming from, but he just has to understand the optics of that. He just has to be way smarter than that as a player. Like, even if you think that, text it to him. Don't comment that on Instagram publicly, especially at a time where your own club's fans are mad at you for consistently underperforming. You know, like just do whatever you can to stay out of the way at that point.
Yeah, agreed. He's giving fans, rival fans, his own fans that dislike him way too much ammunition. You gotta be smart. You gotta be smarter than that.
Exactly. And personally, like I hate preying on people's downfall. Like I don't, like I said, I don't like pieing on the athletes, but Jadon Sancho is one that's kind of rubbed me the wrong way, even since last season when he was still at United and then went on loan to Dortmund. He just kind of like seemed like he didn't really want to take a whole lot of responsibility for some of the stuff that happens to him. And just doesn't seem like I'd hate to like read into the tabloids that are talking about, oh, he's not a good trainer, he doesn't work hard, this, and that. But if you look at the results that he does, like it has like moments of brilliance where you can tell such like he's such a gifted technical player, but he just can't seem to bring it together to a place where he's ever going to be like a starting winger on a top club or at a top club. Like maybe at like a mid-table side, he can be that guy, but not at a Champions League level team.
Yeah, I think those are all fair points and make a lot of sense.
Yeah. We can move on from that. Let's talk about real quick. We can touch on Liverpool versus Wolves.
So right before that, I just wanted to
yeah.
Brighton Chelsea. Brighton have finally been playing well again. Granted, they beat Chelsea. They lost the past 2 games to Forest and Everton. But I really think it's Danny Welbeck being back is the difference because he was out for a long time for them. And during that period, they went on like they had a 7-8 game stretch without having a single win. Was out for the majority. He got the first game he played and then I think got a red card, so he got suspended maybe. But anyway, he got injured in Gameweek 15. But throughout that time, he only played in 1 game, really, essentially in the 8-game period where they didn't have a single win. But he's back now, and they're looking so much better. So I just think he plays a huge part in that. And we're talking not too long ago about how poor Brighton have been, but I think they're back to playing some really good football. And I was really impressed with them early in the season in terms of going forward. And with Welbeck being back, I'm expecting them to keep this momentum up.
Yeah. Yeah, so Danny Welbeck is the secret sauce, I'm hearing.
He is.
Yeah, I mean, he's a quality player, super smart player, works hard, puts his head down. Like, he's just someone that you can't help but root for. And I agree, he does make them a lot better. I think he makes any team that he plays in a lot better.
Yeah, he was interviewed after the game on Matoma's goal, and he was just really happy for him and impressed with Matoma's. But I love seeing Welbeck get interviewed after the game, and he gets picked up pretty often because he does interview really well.
So let's touch on Liverpool now. Liverpool did edge Wolves 2-1. They went up 2-0. Cunha got a great goal to make it 2-1 and make it a little bit competitive in the second half. But for the most part, Liverpool seemed like they were not at ease this game. It was like I think the game was pretty competitive, even though it was 2-0 most of the time. Liverpool got a relatively soft pen. I missed Luis Diaz's first goal, but they got a relatively soft pen in the 37th minute. The keeper definitely made contact with Luis Diaz in the box, but I saw there's at least some debate going on online and in some group messages about whether or not like it was a soft and the right call. I think it was probably the right call, like hard to overturn. And then there was another penalty shot later in the match with Jota that was also that one got overturned. I think that was a flop. He said I missed that one.
Yeah, that was clearly a flop by Jota. He's dribbling the box. The defender like slides across him, and as he's cutting the opposite way, and there's like a foot of clearance or so he's not gonna touch him at all. And he took kind of a hard cut, probably knowing this was gonna happen. Or if so, just the cut was too far away, and he sticks out his left leg, like drags it into the defender and falls over. Clear simulation. Should have gotten a yellow card for it, but it seems like the Premier League is not really too fussed about handing out yellow cards for simulation because can't remember the last time that I've seen that. But thankfully, VAR was used correctly and overturned it.
Nice.
And Liverpool's first goal was quite lucky. It was a ball to Salah who tried to control and kind of lost it and just fell kind of luckily into Luis Diaz who's running on. Luis Diaz like chested it and then ran into the keeper. Kind of got taken out a little bit. But he just kind of like ran into the ball and chested it past, like beat the keeper to it. It was kind of a strange goal.
Gotcha. Yeah. Seems like Liverpool, I mean, I don't want to speak too heavily on them because they won the game, but it seems like they're at least slowing down a little bit, like still kind of riding their luck, not so much like destroying people. Like one thing that we didn't get to talk about in the last pod because it happened after we recorded was Liverpool Everton. That one ended up 2-2. That was a nuts game. The way that one ended, like one of the moments of the season for me, at least in my opinion. But it seems like Liverpool might be slowly stuttering. We'll see if they can either pull it together or if they continue to go in the wrong direction. But definitely something to watch out for. And then from a Wolves perspective, I think they're playing a lot better. If we're talking FPL, I am looking at maybe a Cunha move in the future if it works out for my team because I think he's a great player and they're really starting to figure it out as a team.
Yeah, I think their fixtures are starting to look good as well. So it sounds like he's going
That's
to
why.
become more popular as he was super popular in the season. And back to your point about Liverpool, I think they are getting not necessarily lucky, but they're not really killing games. They're just kind of scoring, but the goals were pretty lucky. They get a pen again. I can't like they've gotten so many penalties this year. It's ridiculous.
I
I
saw a
think
stat that they've got more penalties awarded to them this season than Arsenal, United, and City combined. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that stat whatsoever. They had so many pens. I mean, it was a pen. The keeper came out and Luis Diaz like went down. It's fine. That's a pen. But they've just gotten so many of them this year. It's so annoying. And yeah, if it was maybe a little bit of a better team than Wolves, I think they could have that game could have ended up being a draw because, like I said, Liverpool never killed off the game. Wolves were always around, and in mid to late second half, they were putting on some pressure, especially after Cunha's goal. So if it was a better team, I think someone could have gotten a draw against them or even put out a win. So we'll see if how Liverpool do going forward, especially in this tough game against City this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at that, and you see, what is it? If you look at their recent games, they lost in the FA Cup. Obviously, that was a B team that they played, but
Yeah,
they did
yeah.
lose in the FA Cup to Plymouth, which isn't a good result. And then they go on and play Everton a few days later. And I was watching that game, and Everton had multiple chances when it was 1-1 to go up 2-1. And I feel like although Liverpool played decently well, again, I don't think they were like doing anything spectacular and really killing the game off. And even how they got their goal, it was good on them because it was just sustained pressure that eventually cracked Everton. But at the same time, it still was kind of a fortunate like ball kind of bounces out to Salah, who's able to control it and score after Salah was he was non-existent for 45 to 50 minutes of the game. And I was really like, oh, here goes Liverpool about to nick another one, kind of off luck again. Salah can disappear and then somehow get his return again. And so seeing Tarkowski score that goal at the end was absolutely nuts. And
It
it
was
felt so
awesome.
good for me from like just from a neutral's perspective. Like I love seeing Liverpool lose. And then also from a fantasy Premier League perspective, it completely flipped the Moyes decision in favor of him if you played him as your assistant manager, Chip. And then just love seeing the justice in that specific game, seeing the moment with Everton playing their last Merseyside derby at Goodison Park. Just seeing the eruption and the emotion around that moment was awesome. Like I was sitting in my room and I screamed on the top of my lungs, and Courtney was on a work call in the living room. And I was like, "I'm sorry, but like if you saw what happened, like it was absolutely crazy." So I mean, great to see that from just from a neutral perspective.
Yeah, that was electric. That was the definition of scenes. The end of that game, and as someone who also was a Moyes owner, played the assistant manager chip on him, awesome. And we were really building up to that game, fantasy wise, and it really
Mm-hmm.
delivered. So just peak excitement. That's like kind of what the EPL is all about. And yeah, that game just delivered. It was a great watch.
Yeah. Yep. It's going to be interesting to see. So you said they play City next? Because
Yeah,
don't they
this
have
this
the
Sunday.
double game week? Did they play midweek?
Uh,
No,
they
I guess
they play Villa coming up.
midweek though, because they have the double game week against Villa.
It is. Oh, sorry, you're right. They play Villa this Wednesday, and then this coming next Sunday is the next game week's game. Yep.
Nice. Okay, perfect. I mean, that'll be
I guess
awesome. Hopefully,
that's what I meant. I guess in terms of like playing, I guess like in terms of like next game week, and I forgot like the Villa game got pushed up.
yeah. So hopefully, Villa can do something for us, and hopefully they're moving in the right direction. I don't like what I saw that the fact that they drew Ipswich, and Ipswich is on 10 men at that.
Yeah,
They were threatening, to be fair. Like I watched that game, and they definitely had chances to score. The Ipswich keeper was kind of playing out of his mind. Good performance from Marcus Rashford, by the way. Probably put in a man of the match performance. Only played 45 minutes, so that's something to watch out for. Hopefully, he continues to gain form and confidence. But yeah, I'm hoping we can get a little redemption out of Emery with the assistant manager chip, because he really disappointed me this week with my decision to go with him. And also, I chose to not bring in Ollie Watkins for a hit. I was thinking about sacrificing. It was pretty bad, actually, now I think about it in hindsight. Was thinking about sacrificing either Ahmad or one of my other midfielders to afford a move up to Watkins, because I was scared that Gakpo wasn't going to play. Gakpo didn't play. Watkins got a goal. And my assistant manager chip didn't work out because they drew against Ipswich as well. So pretty rough decision from me there. Maybe Gakpo comes out and destroys Villa, but either way, it's not going to be good for me. Like, I got two conflicting things. I either need Gakpo to go off and kill my Emery assistant manager chip, or I need Emery to win the game against Liverpool. So kind of pick your poison there.
Yeah. I could be partly at fault for that, because you texted me about these moves, and I thought I was strongly against the moves. Because your other move, was it Ahmad to Ouattara you were gonna do? Was it someone else to Ouattara?
Yeah, it was at first. It was Ahmad to Ouattara, but I was scared that Ahmad might score well against whatchamacallit. So I thought, if I want to play the Ahmad upside, maybe I just go with Semenyo to Ouattara, because I felt like Ouattara was probably going to be a better pick in the short term from Bournemouth, as far as like getting more chances, scoring more goals, and he was cheaper. So I was between just biting the bullet and changing my Bournemouth mid decision, or taking out Ahmad and getting a third Bournemouth asset with the good run of fixtures that they have moving forward, which in hindsight could have been great, because Ahmad ended up not even playing anyway. But I mean, it's all hindsight though.
Yeah. I think you texted me it was Semenyo in there. Which I just didn't like, because Gakpo could easily outscore Watkins, and Semenyo could have outscored Ouattara. There's probably like a 3-point difference there, because Ouattara scored, Semenyo got an assist. But the big killer so far is that Watkins scored and Gakpo didn't even start. So that's the killer one for you.
We'll see. Maybe something magical can happen in the second game, and like this won't even be too big of an issue. Let's see. Other results from the match you want to talk, or from the week you want to talk about before we do our picks?
No. Maybe do you want to just hop into FPL and then do picks afterwards, since we were just talking about FPL a lot?
Yeah, let's do that.
Cool. Let's keep the ball rolling. So I had a really good week in FPL. I'm on 70 points right now with Trent to go. With Trent getting subbed early is really nice, because he got the clean sheet before Cunha scored. Luis Diaz finally paid.
Huge.
The patience finally paid off for him, because I brought him in a long time ago, and he was so bad. But I knew these double games were coming up, so I was just staying consistent, and felt like he could return, go off at any point. So it felt pointless just to move him on to Gakpo, who's been killing me over like the period where I went Diaz. And then I could have moved on Luis Diaz to go for Arne Slot last week, but it just didn't feel like the extra transfer was worth it, and I felt like there was enough upside with keeping Luis Diaz as a bit of a differential, and going Moyes last week. So that paid off as well. Sticking with Moyes and sticking Diaz, and then moving Diaz to this week with a goal and assist on 13 points with a little more game to go has been the really key differential for me. And then I also got Mo Salah left to go. He was my captain, and then I'm also on the Emery train. But other than that, Mateta keeps returning, which is great. I brought in Kluivert. I did 3 transfers this week. I did Moyes to Emery, did Gordon to Kluivert, which I was unsure about, but I texted you about that, and you were for it. And after thinking about it, it just made too much sense. I was going to do it anyway. I saw the price changes happening, and it's Southampton, so just such a better fixture for Bournemouth. And then I also did Lewis Hall to Huijsen for Bournemouth. So tripled up on Bournemouth with their good fixture run coming up.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
like all those
other,
moves. I like all those moves, and Luis Diaz was huge. I figured he could be like he had the potential to go big. I think even weeks ago, like when it was first like game week 24 when Liverpool had their double, and I was looking at Liverpool assets, and I looked at the fixture build up. I saw it coming. Like I just knew this Wolves game was going to be the game that I feel like Gakpo drops out of the lineup, and Luis Diaz gets like his full. Did he get a full 90 or like close to it? Let's see. It looks like he got 70 minutes. So I figured he was going to get a good amount of minutes and potentially a return there. Um, so I think good patience on your part to hold out for that, and maybe him getting on the score sheet and contributing more will give him some more confidence to go get some more returns in the next week as well.
I really think it comes down to where he's been playing. He's been playing down the middle with Gakpo, and Gakpo's been getting all the goals from the left wing spot. This time, Gakpo moves to the bench because of his slight injury concern. Is it Nunez that started up top for them? No, Jota.
Jota, yeah.
But it was Diaz on the left wing this time, and he got the goal and assist. So I really think it's just like when he's on that left wing, that's where he's more comfortable, and it seems like more goals are coming from that position as opposed to the main striker.
Yeah,
So we'll
that's a good shout.
see. Honestly, I was gonna get rid of him probably this week for Embuemo because I like against Leicester and they've got a blank in 29. So I still am probably gonna do that because Liverpool plays City, who are looking better, and it's a really good entry point for Embuemo. And I need to start moving
Yeah,
off Liverpool for Gameweek 29 because I don't plan to use my free hit.
yeah, yeah. I'm in the same boat. Honestly, I'm trying to move off of Gakpo after this week. I guess on that note, I can kind of discuss my team.
Yeah.
I am not having a good game week so far. Not catastrophic. I'm on 49 points. My safety score is 55. If I can get a few things to go my way in this next Liverpool Aston Villa game, maybe that'll help. I don't know if I'll get rid of the red arrow just because I assume majority of other people that still have players are going to be the same players that I have and probably going to be on either Emery or Slot. So the real differential is if Emery can pick up that table bonus against Liverpool, really. So that's really what I'm rooting for. I'm hoping for a result, both in real life, just because I want to see Liverpool lose some matches, and then I also want to see Emery get that table bonus. Looking at my team, though, the only move I made this week was my manager shift, and then I decided to just keep everything else the same. I just discussed how I was debating a bigger move of taking a -8 to bring in Watkins for Gakpo, and then one of Ahmad or Semenyo out for Watora. But I'm not really regretting it too badly. Like in hindsight, it sucks, but I do agree with like the line of thinking that I had going into the week, so I can't be too upset about it. Raya picked up a big clean sheet for me, which has been nice because I feel like I brought him in for a while, hoping that Arsenal's defense was just going to be a steady Eddie. I eventually moved away from Gabriel, but that was to help fund some other moves in my team, so I still think it was worth it. I'm glad Semenyo got his assist. I'm really disappointed by Isak this week because he was another player that I was thinking about downgrading it to Watkins as well, but I just feel like he's just someone that's going to be so good that I didn't want to lose the value that I had built up in him as well. But yeah, let's see. Another thing that's tough is Njai. I brought him in to be kind of a cheap enabler that could get me some returns as well for Everton, but now he's hurt indefinitely. So I've got a few problems in my team to sort out moving forward into next week. What I did already, I'll give you a little spoiler, is as soon as I saw Ahmad was out, even before United played, I transferred him out and I brought in Dango. I brought him a boy. I brought in a third Bournemouth asset. So he's in the team. He's cheaper than Ahmad, so he's freeing up some more money because, like I said, I'm trying to free up more money, upgrade my striker position to Watkins most likely, and then ride him out for a little bit. I know he does blank in 29, I'm pretty sure, but I'm willing to ride that out, hopefully, and kind of get some points from him in the meantime. And then hopefully with him being a more expensive striker, it'll make it a little bit easier to move to Holland come around game week 29, game week 30-ish, whenever I end up hitting my wild card, I think. Or not wild card, but whatever. Whenever I start making some more moves.
Yeah, getting rid of the assistant manager will definitely help us in terms of upgrading NDI because I also have him. You just get such like a little boost of money that you forget you don't have. When you like start looking into the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have a very similar team. The only difference
We do.
is Luis Diaz versus Gakpo.
Exactly. And then you've got Mateta versus I have
Mbeumo.
Mbeumo, yeah.
And then I guess I've got Kluivert, but you've now got, instead of Ahmad, you've got Dango. But yeah, just very similar team now looking at it. So yeah. I like my team,
Another
honestly.
thing I'm looking at is...
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, like, another thing I'm looking at is I have both Munoz and Robinson. And thinking about downgrading one of them to just an enabler, so I don't have the benching headache.
Yeah, I hate that, honestly.
Yeah, I'm thinking about replacing one of them, or if I really don't believe in Liverpool, obviously trying to get it ready for like game week 29 where they blank, I might just say screw it and get rid of Trent, and reinvest that somewhere else in the team if I can really find another player that like he'll help me upgrade to. But I think those are like the main things I'm looking at in my team with right now.
Yeah, you can get rid of Trent, Munoz, because they blank in 29. So that wouldn't hurt. I plan on holding Trent until game week 29 because they got Southampton at home in 28, which I definitely want him for. I could see him having a huge haul that game. But yeah, my plan is to slowly take out players until 29. So I'm going to get rid of Diaz this week. And then that's probably the only move I make. But we'll eventually get rid of Trent. I want to hold Isak, Mateta, and Salah are the three players I plan to bench in 29 because I got value in Isak especially, and I think Mateta's got really good fixtures on either side of 29.
Nice.
Yeah, Mateta's been huge lately, so I've been really excited that I brought him in at a good time.
Yeah, that's one that's hurt me because I moved early for Mateta.
Yeah, and then you took him out for Gakpo, right?
And I took him out for Gakpo ahead of the back-to-back doubles. So I just felt like I kind of had to. But, I mean, again, hindsight 2020, like, I am missing, like, his contributions. And, like, it's not like Gakpo's exactly lighting it on fire. But I can't say that, like, I wouldn't have done the same thing because had I kept Mateta and not got Gakpo, I probably would have been on slot assistant manager the last couple of weeks. Instead of Moyes and Emery. So there's just like a whole trickle down effect there that who's to say like if it would have worked out better or not necessarily.
Yeah, 100%.
So you got anything else FPL wise to keep on the radar? I guess you already mentioned players that you're looking at as well as players that you're looking to keep. Yeah, you're set on not free hitting.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Actually, one player I was looking at last night, I'm looking at bringing in Danny Welbeck for Njai. Talked about Welbeck earlier. He's super cheap, so I can get him for not too much more. And they've got a good fixture. I think they play Southampton this weekend. Brighton do.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they do, but...
So I'm thinking of bringing in Danny Welbeck. And then I also thinking of, like I already said, Mbeumo for Luis Diaz. Then I would have to bench Palmer or one of my Bournemouth guys, I would say. So it might make a little bit of a benching headache is why I'm not sure I'm going to bring in Danny Welbeck. But I really like that for a differential because no one's going to be on him. Just kind of a 1 week punt, put him back on my bench, and then I'll have him for 29 if Brighton don't blank. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember if they blank or not, but I like that. I feel like that's a good little differential shout, like a sneaky one. That's like pretty safe because he's like pretty involved in what they do. He plays high up the pitch. He's not like a João Pedro where he's popping up all over like in deep. Like I don't think João Pedro didn't even start against Chelsea this week. I'm pretty sure he came off the bench.
Yeah, he's been benched the past 2 games.
Yeah.
But I think I like that. Just something fun. And Southampton give up so many goals and turn the ball over high. You said Danny Welbeck's just involved, so I could easily see him getting one return, even a double return.
Yeah, that's a good shout. That's a really good shout.
And then because I've got enough free transfers, and he does play in 29. Granted, it's against City, but I'll kind of play anyone in 29. Just so I think I might do that actually, something fun and different.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I'm sitting here like, I don't know. I mean, actually, I have an idea of what my moves are going to be, but I'm trying to look at other players that are hurting me that I would love to have on my team. Like Chris Wood, he just keeps scoring. It's
Yeah,
so
dude,
annoying.
it's so tough.
He keeps scoring. I'm scared of Gabrielle continuing to hurt me. Like that was like a really tough call for me, taking him out of my team, but I just needed the team value for him.
Mm-hmm. Granted, you do have Raya though, who outscored Gabrielle
Yeah,
this week.
exactly. I've got the coverage there, which was like that was the thinking behind it. Who else? I do really want Watkins. I really want
Really?
Ollie Watkins. I think Aston Villa. I just have a feeling that they're gonna really start putting in some better performances with the new additions that they made to the team.
Okay.
I think it hasn't quite come together yet, obviously, with them drawing Ipswich, but I feel like the potential for hauls are there. So I'm interested. I kind of want to get Watkins, really, is like the one player I'm looking at from Villa.
Nice.
Maybe. I don't think there's a midfield spot for Rashford right now, but if he becomes a starter and continues to perform well, that might be a differential I go for just to back my boy. And then maybe, I don't know, Palmer is a weird situation where he's like got a really good fixture randomly in like towards the end of the season, but outside of that, he doesn't look like an amazing pick, and he's worth a lot of money. So maybe downgrade Palmer to Rashford and like help me use that to get up to Holland might be something I'd be looking at, but that's way later down the line.
Yeah, I mean, well, just in the short term, Palmer does have Southampton 27 and Leicester. Southampton at home, Leicester at home.
Yeah,
So you have to
yeah. This
hold
is all
him.
post.
Oh, okay, later down the line.
Yeah, this is all like
Like
game week
Holland. Got,
30 plus. Like yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. Both Holland and Palmer. I just feel like there's a couple game week because Man City got a double game week announced, I think, later in the season. There's just like a fixture run where it just seems like you're gonna need at least one City asset.
Mm-hmm.
Probably from about like 31 past that or something, or maybe it's 30. I can't remember. I need to look at their schedule. But I am just eyeing like what I'm gonna do there, and then apparently it's just not looking good for you. Basically, what from what I've heard and listening to different FPL creators is you're basically going to come to a point where you're going to have to decide: do you want two of Mo Salah and Erling Haaland and Cole Palmer, essentially?
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, now I see what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah, but I guess all I was saying there was that that's just something I'm eyeing. What to do with Cole Palmer, how to move to Holland, and then I'm also liking Aston Villa or thinking about going big on Villa moving forward.
cool. I was looking to Villa. I've not thought about that much. And would be willing to take out Cole Palmer later in the season as well, to bring in Holland if that's feel like it's needed.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. I think that covers everything, at least I had from an FPL perspective. Do you have anything for picks now?
Yep, ready for some picks. So last week you went first, I went second. I went 3 for 11, including the Merseyside Derby. You went 5 for 11, so you've been consistently outperforming me by 1 or 2 picks recently. You correctly called that or that Everton draw, so it was big.
Nice. Nice. I felt good about that one. I did feel like, I don't know, just the lore around the game. I was like, they could do something big here. Like, I felt like this was the time. Moyes has those boys cooking. I guess we didn't touch on this earlier, but they did win again. They
Yeah,
beat, who was it, 2-1? Let me see.
Crystal Palace.
Crystal Palace. There you go. They beat Crystal Palace 2-1, which was huge for them. So I hope Everton keeps it up, and I'm glad they were able to prove me right there.
Yeah, Moyes has been really doing a great job, and I was pretty down on him coming in. But the more I think back on him, the more I needed to give him more credit. I forgot he took West Ham to a European trophy at the Conference League, I believe, in
Yep.
Rice's last year. But yeah, he just deserves a lot more credit, and he's doing great at Everton, so I love to see it.
Yep. Nice. All right. You want to go first this week, or you want to go second?
I'll go first this week.
Okay. Sounds good. I've got the games up in front of me. We'll start with Aston Villa, even though it's technically a part of last game week, but did we talk about that? We didn't, I don't think we guessed on that last week.
No, because I think this was a 29 that got moved up.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay. Perfect. All right. So I guess starting from the top, On Wednesday, we've got Aston Villa at home hosting Liverpool.
I'm going to go with a draw.
Okay.
I'm not confident quite enough in Villa getting the win, but I think they can get a draw at home.
Get the throw. Nice. That would be huge for the table bonus in FPL.
Huge.
Let's see. On Friday, we have Leicester hosting Brentford.
I'm going to go with Brentford, and Mbeumo is going to score after I bring him in.
And then I've got Everton hosting Manchester United on Saturday morning. Oof, that's a scary fixture to see after I was just talking about boys.
Yeah, it's going to be Everton.
Wow. Okay. That's going to be really big for us as far as relegation.
It's going to be a tough game for you guys.
Yeah. Let's see. We got Bournemouth hosting Wolves.
Oh, Bournemouth.
Okay. Arsenal hosting West Ham.
Arsenal.
Okay. Fulham at home to Crystal Palace.
I'll go with a draw.
Okay.
It's a tough one to call.
Yeah, it is. We've got Ipswich at home versus Tottenham.
Tottenham.
Okay. Southampton at home versus Brighton.
Brighton. I think Brighton will good for a comfortable win.
Okay, and then we're going back to Villa. Back-to-back home matches. They are hosting Chelsea in this one.
Villa.
Okay. We've got on Sunday now Newcastle hosting Nottingham Forest in the morning match.
Go with Newcastle. Find some form again.
Okay. And then match of the week, the big one on Sunday, Manchester City hosting Liverpool.
I go with City. Just change it up.
Sure. I like that.
At home, City playing better. Yeah, why not?
Nice. All right. I like that. I like a lot of those picks.
That's 4 dropped points I picked for Liverpool there.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
No, 5 drop points.
Yeah.
Draw and loss.
Big draw and loss, yeah. Okay.
All right, you ready to do your picks?
I am ready.
Okay, Aston Villa hosting Liverpool.
I'm going to go Emery Masterclass. I'm going Villa win.
Nice. That'll be huge. Leicester hosting Brentford on Friday.
I feel like Brentford's been deceptively cheeks. I'm going to go draw.
Nice. It's on a Friday, too. I can see that happening. I'm with you. Brentford, hard to read right now, but I think they've been pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. Like, Mbeumo is someone that I moved early for, hoping he would, light it on fire, and he just has not done anything.
Nothing. It's been Sade stepping up for them.
Yeah.
Everton hosting United alongside.
Yeah, I feel like I should say Everton, but my heart's going to say United just because I'm going to back my boys.
I like it. Arsenal hosting West Ham.
Give me Arsenal.
Bournemouth hosting Wolves.
I'm telling you, I think Wolves have been playing well. Bournemouth are at home. So I'm going to go with a draw.
Okay. Fulham hosting Crystal Palace.
I'm going to go Fulham.
I like that. I was between that and the draw.
Mm-hmm.
Ipswich hosting Tottenham.
I'm going to pick Ipswich just because to go with the Spurs. I know they're a lot more healthy now, but the Spurs have the knack for winning a game and then losing one. So
We'd love to see that. Southampton hosting Brighton.
Brighton.
Villa hosting Chelsea.
I'm going to go draw off the back of Villa winning and having a little bit of a drought on the short week after that.
And then Newcastle hosting Nottingham Forest on Sunday.
This is another really tough one. I'm going to go draw.
And then City hosting Liverpool.
I think City gets away with a win there. I think Liverpool is going to have the advantage or be considered the better team going into that match, but it's still going to be a City versus Liverpool match. I think it's going to be high quality, and I think City pull it out.
Nice. Maybe Michael Oliver ref City and helps them out a little bit.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Hilarious.
That would be awesome to see.
One more thing we didn't talk about was what do you do with your assistant manager?
Assistant manager, I don't know. I think I have to look at what the fixtures are looking like. I think we still need to wait and see how Liverpool versus Villa goes to determine who's going to get table bonus and whatnot based on where teams end up. So I don't know. I need to look at what those fixtures are looking like. Maybe I've heard Glasner shouts. Crystal Palace versus Fulham is going to be a competitive game. I think that could go either way, and I think that's a potential table bonus game, but it depends on where Villa ends up after the Liverpool match. Other than that, I haven't looked at the fixtures too closely. Ipswich, maybe, if you really want to take a punt on them versus Spurs, but Spurs are getting
Yeah.
healthier. I'm trying to think who else I saw. Liverpool or Leicester, if you think they can beat a struggling or draw against a struggling Brentford team, is another table bonus fixture. I can't. I think the rest of them are pretty close. There's like one or two more that were table bonuses, but we'll see.
If United were higher, like as they usually should be, that'd be perfect to go for Moyes with this Everton right now.
Uh,
But obviously, no table bonus there. I just don't have any of the table bonus offerings.
mm-hmm.
So I'm right now. I'm leaning Hertzler for Brighton against Southampton, just because I
Yeah,
could see them scoring a bunch of goals and getting a win.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a great shout, honestly.
But it's a really tough one to call this week.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think for me, I'm probably gonna go like just because I'm chasing rank, I'm gonna try and go the upside route and like pick one of the table bonus fixtures. I just don't know which one yet.
That's fair. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Nice. But yeah, for those picks, I feel like we didn't pick a lot of the same ones, so it'll be really interesting to see how those games end up. I picked a
hmm
few just purely not for the meme, but off what I want to happen, maybe rather than what I think will happen. But I think it's still going to be a lot. Like I think it'll be an exciting weekend. I think a lot of the games could go either way.
Yeah, the Fulham Crystal Palace one was really hard to pick.
Yeah,
Just because I think Fulham are really solid and they're at home, but Palace Mateta's been on fire. So even though they just did just lose to Everton, but we'll see.
yeah. Nottingham Forest, Newcastle is another one I'm not really sure
hmm
what to think of because both teams are like okay right now, based on the last couple of weeks. And then I wish I watched Bournemouth this past weekend to see how they are. I know they played pretty well against Liverpool despite losing. I don't know how they played this past weekend in their match as far as like performance wise. But I do, again, I just think Wolves are playing well and kind of only going in the right direction. I think that's like a game where they could shock some people as well. One to
hmm
watch out for.
Yeah, the Newcastle Forest game also they kind of play similar styles. They sit back and then counter on you for the most part. Forest for
Hmm.
sure, and Newcastle will set up that way in a lot of games.
Hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how they match up against each other.
Agreed. Agreed. Nice. Got anything else as far as FPL or not FPL, but Premier League picks or just pod in general?
No, I think we covered everything.
Nice. Very nice. I think this is a good one. I did want to, I guess we forgot to do it at the beginning, but
Yeah.
maybe I can edit it in there. But I just want to say if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, please make sure to subscribe to the channel to make sure you're not missing any of our pods. If you guys could throw us a like, a comment, any sort of engagement helps a lot. We appreciate you if you've listened to this point. And maybe I'll record a little intro as well to throw that in at the beginning in post. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and that's all I had.
Yeah, thanks for joining in. Like Tochi said, like and subscribe. And if you got any comments or feedback on the new thumbnail Toshi worked on, let us know what you think of that. I'm a big fan of
Yeah,
it. I think it looks better. But let us know.
yeah. Let us know about honestly anything you got feedback on. That would be
Yeah,
huge.
agreed.
All right, peace.